I'm so excited to answer your questions about how to break down difficult exercises in Pilates. I mean, honestly, this is a workshop, and it's in fact a workshop I teach, but we're going to talk about it so that you can take a look at it as you are taking classes here on our channel, or if you are an OPC member, or if you're just trying to figure out how to make Pilates work for you. This is August. August, you might recognize his face from our customer support. That's this one. So he's here to help. Are you going to help me? Yes, thank you. Okay, so and before we get into answering your question, first of all, if you are interested in working out with me and the OPC teachers for a week, we have an amazing event coming up. It's in the spring. It's called Spring Training. And if you go to opc.me/events, opc.me/events, you can actually get on the wait list for that. Those who are on the wait list will get the early bird price for this really amazing event that we're going to do. There's like 10 classes over a course of a week. Yes, there's access to replays. And if you get the early bird, the mat one alone is like $6 a class. So it's going to be so worth it. So you want to go opc.me/events to make sure that you don't miss out on the early bird pricing for our spring training that's coming up in April. All right. So how to break down difficult exercise in the Pilates. First of all, I think it's really important to note that Pilates is not there, like Pilates is very different than other fitness modalities, but it's also the same. If you go to the gym and there's a complicated weight training exercise, weightlifting exercise, you would do breakdowns of it. For example, a curl to press, you would probably just do the curls, or you would just do the press, or you would change the weight, or you would do it sitting versus standing. Like there's different ways you would do it so that you can make it more accessible for your body. Pilates is the same way. Difficult exercises are just combining more foundational exercises. So if you are looking at an exercise that's upside down, for example, rollover, if you were to do it not upside down, what would that exercise be? And so, one of the best ways that you can actually break down a difficult exercise for your body is just to turn it around. And so, I brought my flashcards out here because my flashcards are like the visual and physical way of being able to do this. So, you can get these at onlinepilatesclasses.com. But first, let's try to find one that's upside down. Let's try to find one. Let's see. Well, here, this one's an upside down, but this one is quite complicated. It's got extension. It's a big back bend, right? So if we were to look at this exercise, we're to see what are the arms doing? What is the upper back doing? What are the legs doing? And then we were to go into this deck, we could find ourselves a double leg kick. We could find ourselves even leg pull. This leg lift is helping with what the legs are about to do. We can go into double leg kick, does the arms behind the back. So you can do, single leg kick. Here's half a rocking, right? So you can break down an exercise just by going, okay, well, what is a smaller version of that? What is a different version? What is the arms doing? What are the legs doing? And then find an exercise that looks like that. This exercise, an open leg rocker, this one, not easy to do. But if we were just to turn it a little bit, you could see like, oh, if I turn it a little bit more, it's like the roll up, right? So the way you can change the image allows you to see that, okay, if I can't do this exercise yet, what can I do? Right. And so that is one of the best ways you can break down difficult exercises. And if you use our flashcards, we have them on the mat, reformer, Cadillac tower, chairs. First of all, on the reformer, we actually have related mat exercises. So even breaking down difficult exercises on different pieces of equipment might mean taking it to a mat. So let me explain that a little bit more. There are 5 spine shapes in Pilates, and the more difficult exercises usually combine spine shapes. So if you struggle with flexion, then an exercise that includes flexion and a twist is going to be complicated. So we actually have to help support your flexion before we can make it more complicated. If you struggle with a tall back, then a tall back with a twist is going to be challenging. So we actually have to help you with just the spine shape without combining it with something else. The other way you can actually break down difficult exercises is to put it on a more stable piece of equipment. So for example, upstretch combo on the reformer, quite complicated, multiple spine shapes. It goes from a round back to a tall back to extension. and then back to round, right? And so if we were to take it on a non-moving apparatus, we can take it to the mat and we could do swan dive. We could take it to the mat and we can do open leg rocker, double straight leg stretch. We can go to the Cadillac and we could do rolling in and out. We can do just a thigh stretch with a back bend. We can do a rolling in and out prep. So my what I want you to think about is like if where the exercise is a moving piece of apparatus, just by putting on a non-moving apparatus, you are going to break that exercise down. If the exercise has multiple spine shapes, just by breaking out the spine shapes and going, what exercise focuses just on flexion? Okay, how does that look in my body? That's going to be better. And then the other way that I love to help people have access to difficult exercises is to actually not focus so much on them. We tend to go, oh my God, I can't get hip circles. I can't do horseback. And we slow it down and we micromanage it to a point that's torturous. And that actually does not make it more possible. The more difficult exercises are not necessarily exercises you're supposed to be able to do slowly. They're meant to have a rhythm and do them with the rhythm. And if you do them with the rhythm, right, then what they reveal is exercises you need to go work on more in the foundations. So, for example, hip circles on the mat, it comes way later in the mat order, it comes after teaser. It's definitely there to challenge your stamina of your hamstrings, your inner thighs, your glutes, your core. And then it's got this twist and this circle, and it's can you maintain all of these things? So you go too slow, you're gonna die. But by doing it at rhythm, it reveals like, okay, hold on. Do you still have the inner thigh strength or did it let go? Okay, well then if you lost that inner thigh strength at that last moment, then where in the order, where in the exercise, where in the method can we go focus on building that strength and then using hip circles to reveal where you have gotten stronger and where you still have work to do. So I really like, I love this question, like, how do I break down advanced exercise or more difficult exercises? Because I think it's important to just take a moment to go, what if you didn't have to actually get those? What if they just became possible and they revealed where you have work to do? Truly, if you are an advanced practitioner, and I get a lot of people saying like, I couldn't do this exercise and I've been doing Pilates for years and I should be able to do it. That's not actually how it goes. Pilates doesn't work like that. Pilates is a competition and there's no perfection of it. And there's exercises you'll be able to do that eventually like some days will be harder than others, right? But if you're truly advanced, then the in air quotes beginner exercises should be really hard. Roll up for me is very hard. Why? Because it's not just about having a strong core. I have to have strong inner thigh, strong outer thigh, strong hamstrings. My arms have to be connected to my back. I have to move together. When you're newer to it, you can kind of just come up and you're like, yes, I did it. The more advanced you get, the harder it gets. And so giving yourself permission to use those difficult, challenging exercises to be a barometer of where you have work to do is actually going to make your Pilates practice more fun. And I hope that that really helps. I hope that breaking down the spine shapes really helps. I hope that understanding that moving exercises to a non-moving apparatus is going to help. And then also using them to tell you where you have work to do. So, what difficult exercises are you struggling with? I would love to know. And then if you're an OPC member, you already know this. In our classes at OPC, we actually tell you, like, oh, you can't do corkscrew, you'll do single leg circles. Oh, you can't do hip circles, you can do corkscrew. All right, we're going upside down. You don't go upside down. Here's 3 exercises that you can do. Or what exercises are challenging for you personally? You should repeat them at exercises that are not accessible to you yet, because that stamina and endurance is actually important. You'll build it up, and over time, exercises will be added in depending on who you are and what you need and what contraindications you have. So, hopefully, this answered that question, got your mind thinking about how to make Pilates accessible for your body. If you want to nerd out more about these things, over on OPC, we actually have some workshops. There's one by Rachel Piper that has a lot of different props that shows how to make things a little bit more accessible. We also, when we go on tour this summer, if there's some locations that pick like breaking down advanced exercises, we'll be able to do that and nerd out personally with you with what other ones you want to work on. But if you're an OPC member, then you actually can film yourself doing the exercise that's difficult and I can give you feedback on exactly what you need. And that is something that no one else can do. Yes, Brad. Hamstring. The hamstring stretch isn't an exercise. Well, there's so I don't know of an exercise called hamstring stretch, but there is um, hamstring curls on the reformer, and they should be difficult. Hamstrings are muscles that have to work all day long, all the time. So they're part of your postural muscles. So they're constantly working. And what that means is it's easy for them to become tight and weak. And then to make them strong and flexible is going to take time. It's going to take consistent practice. And so I would just say, like, that's a foundational exercise you should always have in your practice because in our modern lives, our quadriceps are more developed than often than our hamstrings are. And the reason why people have a lot of knee issues is an imbalance of the muscles around their thighs. So allow them to be difficult. I think I actually love that you brought this up. It's absolutely fine for exercises to be difficult. In fact, if Pilates was easy, you wouldn't do it. So I actually think it's really cool and it's one of the reasons why at OPC we compare ourselves to ourselves. We take the same class all week long on the mat or on the reformer, and we compare ourselves to ourselves because each day some exercises may be more challenging than others. And when you get to go, oh, wow, today hamstring curls were difficult, they were challenging for me. Okay, what did you do this week that might have made it different? Did you travel on a plane for 12 hours? That's going to make your hamstrings tighter, right? Did you go for a 3.5 mile hike for the first time in the season? Like it allows you to actually explore and understand what is my body telling me why this is difficult today versus other days. And so I think that the more we can accept that in Pilates, there are always going to be exercises that are difficult, challenging, out of our reach, the more fun we get to make this practice, the more curious we get to be, and we don't get bored. Like truly, like who does like you change up your hike because eventually it becomes possible and boring, right? But in Pilates, just because your body changes every day and your life is different every day, some exercises are going to be more accessible and less accessible. And I think that's really fun. Down stretch. So down stretch on the reformer is definitely a leg exercise. I see people too often doing it from their arms, and then they're letting their arms dictate their extension. So before you would do down stretch on the reformer, I would highly recommend that you're slaying your single leg kick on the mat. You've got a decent double leg kick happening. Not saying it's perfect, but you actually have a good arm back connection. You can feel your hamstrings doing those kicks. I would love a good swan prep out of you, if not a good swan dive, because your back has to hold up the extension. And too often I see people do it from their shoulders and then they push from their arms and they let their lower back take the extension. Down stretch requires upper back extension and lower back strength. So your lower body strength. So your legs have to push the carriage out while you're working the extension in the opposite direction. But then as you come in, you're still pulling your chest forward and you're still pushing your legs back. So if your heels can't touch the shoulder rest, then you have other work to do. Because if your heels can't push the carriage out, what do you do it from? Your toes and your arms, right? So 2x4 is going to make downstretch more accessible for you, right? Hamstring curls on the reformer are going to make downstretch more accessible for you. The arm series on the small barrel or spine corrector going to make downstretch more accessible for you. The ice stretch and chest expansion on the Cadillac is going to make downstretch more accessible for you. Make sure you're doing the other exercises. And this is where I see a lot of people just loving the reformer. The reformer is really great. The reformer is a piece of the system. It's a piece. And so you have to incorporate the other pieces. And if you don't have the financial ability to do that in a studio, that's why you can do the mat work at home and then you can do the reformer at a studio, but do not ever outsource or omit the mat because it is difficult and the reformer feels really fun. No, the mat work is really where a lot of things open up and prepare you for the reformer. And then the reformer makes you understand what the stretch is coming from and the reach is coming from. They should be on the mat. So they kind of feed themselves very much together. So moral of the story, it's okay for your Pilates practice to be difficult. It always will be. So enjoy being curious and allow challenging exercises to tell you where you have work to do. Anything else, my love? You don't. Oh, so the question is, what if you're stuck and you only have access to reformers? You do not. The mat is on the floor. And if there is room for a reformer, there's room for you on the floor. If there's no room for mats, you can do the mat work at home. You can do the mat work at an office. You can do the mat work at a gym. So I we created OPC not to take you away from the studio. We created OPC to be something that was done in alignment with your studio work. And the reason is because I know that studios are not doing mat work. I know that they're not doing the mat work because there's a lack of space, or people have this idea that the mat work is less valuable. That is some BS, and that is a different life. But the you doing your mat work at home is really important. If you're a teacher, you telling your clients that if they can't come to the studio, they should be doing their mat work at home. And if they don't, if your studio doesn't offer mat work, be an affiliate for OPC and tell them to do this. We're not going to take them away from the studio. Obviously, if they don't have a reformer, they want you. But the reality is that we have to be making sure that people are doing the system. And if you are a teacher watching this, you owe it to them to let them know what the system is. And if you're a non-teacher watching this, you owe it to yourself to be curious. And on this channel for free, there's tons of mat classes, so you can enjoy that. Yeah, so there's the training I mentioned in the beginning. Sorry, guys, if you're like watching the slow replay, Brad's reading the questions to me. So there's two ways. There's several ways to train. Okay, so the spring training is going to be in April, end of April into May, and it's a week-long program that's going to have mat classes and equipment classes, and so you'll be able to buy the mat track or equipment and mat track. If you're on our wait list, you'll get the early bird price. You'll want to go to opc.me/events. If you want my feedback on your exercises, you need to be an OPC member. You can go to onlinepilatesclasses.com/YouTube. Join us for 40 days for $40. We just had one of our members who's wondering if she should actually have a spacer box on her reformer, get one before she buys one. I looked at her long stretch series and I could tell why she wants to have the assistance of the box, but she doesn't need it. She has to actually develop her strength and her reach. And I gave her some specific exercises to help her do that with. And so instead of her spending $160 on something she doesn't need, she's actually getting feedback on where she can get stronger. So you can be an OPC member. If you love to nerd about Pilates with me and you love understanding the system, then I do have a mentorship program. We don't talk about it a lot because it sells out pretty quickly. 2025 is very full, but you can actually sign up for 2026. We already have 8 people out of the first 12 we can take. So you'll want to go to lesleylogan.co/elevate. That is for teachers only. You can chat with Brad and see if our program is the right one for you. There's 4 spots left in 2026's program. So as of today of this live. So that is the different ways you can actually nerd out with me. And I wanted to say for the teachers out there, I understand that you're restricted. I understand that studios want you to teach reformer classes and people want to just feel a burn. I also know that people understand the why behind the what. And if you actually get them to nerd out about their bodies, they do buy in. So many of the teachers that we've trained do this with their clients, and their clients know their exercises. They know what they want to work on. At OPC, most of our members are not teachers because they want to nerd out. They want to understand. They want to feel strong. And for the non-teachers watching this, like, you're only watching this because you want to know more. Like, non-teachers don't watch my videos just because they have nothing else to do. You're watching this because you're like, I want to take this knowledge and have it better in classes. And you will actually advance more in your classes because you are taking ownership of your practice. That is how advancement works. No teacher can advance you without you taking ownership and showing up and remembering the moves and remembering the nuances, because you cannot talk nuances into a body. It's not possible. So my love, I've gone very long on this live. I've had a lot of fun. Clearly, this is the topic I love to dive into. So make sure you get on our wait list for spring training, where we'll break down an exercise for a whole week on different pieces of equipment. Also, that wait list will tell you about our summer tour and our winter tour, so you can see when we're coming to a city near you. And don't wait. Join us at OPC, onlinepilatesclasses.com/YouTube. We can help assist you with breaking down everything, whether you're a teacher or non-teacher. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day.